One of these movies has an alien organism that turns everyone who eats it into zombies. Another one has a birthing sequence so disturbing it makes the alien chestburster look tame. These are 10 80s sci-fi films that got completely buried. And they're all f***ing insane. Spaceship crew responds to a distress call. Alien monster starts picking them off. The plot's basically Alien, no way around that, but the special effects team, Robert and Dennis Skotak, these guys went on to do the creature design for Aliens the next year. So when you watch Creature, you're seeing the same people who created the xenomorphs working out their techniques a year earlier. The alien in this one could control people's minds, turning crew members into hypnotized puppets standing around waiting to attack. The movie also had some Cold War espionage thrown in, West Germany still around in their future, and their spy elements mixed with the monster hunt. It came out in 1985, made barely any noise, and then Aliens dropped in '86, and that was it. The Skotak brothers went on to work on the bigger film, and Creature became a footnote. Most people who've even heard of it only know it because of that connection to Aliens. Taking a goofy 50s creature feature and turning it into something actually terrifying sounds impossible. The original Blob was this slow-moving jelly thing from a meteorite that ate people. Not exactly nightmare fuel. But 1988's remake pulled it off. They took that simple concept and made it horrifying. This version of the Blob wasn't just slow and creepy, it was acidic. It dissolved people. The deaths were agonizing and disgusting, and the special effects didn't hold back showing you every detail. The remake also changed the origin story. Instead of coming from space, this blob was actually the result of a government experiment gone wrong. So technically it's more of a mutant than an alien, but the way it moves and consumes people is so disturbing it doesn't really matter. Critics at the time basically ignored it. Why watch some remake of a 50s B movie when you could watch Aliens, which had actual production value and James Cameron directing? The Blob got buried, even though it was doing something genuinely inventive with horror. Italian filmmakers saw Alien make money and immediately made their own version. That's what happened here. Mars' mission comes back to Earth with alien eggs hidden on board. The eggs burst spray green goo that infects people. If they make landfall, the whole planet's in trouble. The aliens in this one use mind control, and the movie threw in spy thriller elements alongside the body horror. Human conflict mixed with the alien threat, Cold War paranoia on top of the monster story. It came out in 1980 while Alien was still fresh in everyone's mind, got dismissed as an Italian cash grab, and disappeared. It tried to go bigger by bringing the threat to Earth instead of keeping it on a spaceship, but nobody really cared. Alien had already done the alien in space thing perfectly, and this was just Italy's version of it. This one's ultra-low budget, originally called Mutant. Scientists trying to solve starvation create a creature that can rapidly produce food. It turns into a monster instead. What made it different was that the creature kept mutating throughout the film. Every time the characters figured out how to fight it, it evolved into something new. They called it Subject 20. The rapid evolution angle was interesting for 1982. Most monster movies had a creature that stayed the same, but this one kept changing forms. By the end, it looked like a spider xenomorph, and the budget was clearly tiny. The movie came and went without anyone noticing. It had a cool concept, but no money to really pull it off, and it was competing with Alien's cultural dominance. Not a winning combination. This one is a British film with almost no budget. Man gets abducted by aliens, comes back, but he's been replaced by something else wearing his face. His son figures it out, discovers he has alien powers after the imposter drinks his blood, and the whole thing spirals into weirdness from there. It opens with some seriously messed up alien birth sequence, gets stranger as it goes, and ends with no resolution, just a bleak downer ending. The alien designs were generic and crude because they had no money, but the replacement horror concept totally worked as a hook. It was creepy in a different way than most creature features. The film spawned 2 sequels somehow, so it found an audience eventually. But in 1982, with Alien and The Thing both dominating sci-fi, a low-budget British film didn't stand a chance. Underwater mining crew salvages a sunken Soviet ship. They bring back something that starts killing them. The creature absorbs its victims and grows bigger. Leviathan was pulling from both Alien and The Thing. Industrial corporate setting like Alien, body horror melding like The Thing. The practical effects for the creature combining victims into one mass were genuinely well done. Problem was, it came out in 1989 alongside James Cameron's The Abyss and Deep Star 6. 3 underwater sci-fi movies in 1 year, and Cameron had the biggest budget and the cutting-edge effects. Leviathan got lumped in with Deep Star 6 as the cheap imitators. The performances were better than you'd expect and the effects work was solid. But when James Cameron's making an underwater movie the same year you are, you've already lost. Leviathan got buried on release and most people forgot it existed. Director Larry Cohen made a lot of weird B movies in the 80s, and the stuff might be the weirdest. The premise is ridiculous. There's a sweet dessert that becomes massively popular across America. Everyone's eating it, it tastes amazing, except it's actually alive. The stuff is an alien substance and people who eat it get infected. They become these zombie-like slaves controlled by whatever this thing is. So you've got hordes of zombified Americans wandering around, and it's spreading because it's literally being sold in stores as a delicious treat. The movie's even more relevant now than it was in 1985, which is saying something. But at the time, it got lumped in with all the other cheap alien knockoffs and nobody took it seriously. Most sci-fi movies set in big galaxies with multiple alien races still make humans the dominant force. Arena went the opposite direction. The story follows a human cook working on a space station who gets into a fight with an alien customer. Next thing he knows, he's been drafted to compete in the Arena, an intergalactic boxing ring where different species fight each other. And humans haven't competed in decades because we're basically the weakest species out there. So the whole movie is about this guy being the underdog, the first human in years to step into the ring, and all these ancient corrupt elements trying to make sure he loses. The makeup and costumes were cheap as hell, the special effects couldn't compete with Star Wars or anything with a real budget, so it's easy to see why it got overlooked. But the concept was genuinely interesting. Humans as the underdogs for once having to prove themselves against stronger alien species. Some of the creature designs were clever. With a bigger budget or modern effects, Arena could have been something really cool. John Carpenter made The Thing in 1982, which everyone knows, but he made another alien movie in the 80s that almost nobody saw. They Live. It stars wrestler Roddy Piper as a drifter bouncing from town to town. He stumbles onto a pair of special sunglasses, and when he puts them on, he discovers that most of the people running the world are actually skull-faced aliens. They've been bombarding humans with subliminal messages through advertising and media, keeping everyone compliant and obedient. Only he can see through it with these glasses. Like The Stuff, this was a satire on modern society and consumerism. And like The Stuff, it's become way more relevant over time. Critics appreciate it more now than they did back then, but it's still obscure. Most people have never seen it. Here's the really interesting one. Before James Cameron made Aliens, he worked on a low-budget sci-fi horror movie called Galaxy of Terror. He was the production designer, which means he created a lot of the imagery and monster designs. The plot is basically a copy of the original Alien. Crew on a spaceship encounters a terrifying organism, everyone starts dying in horrible ways. But the creature in Galaxy of Terror is different. It's this shape-shifting thing based on fear. Sometimes it's a demonic monster, sometimes it clones people. There's this great scene where Robert Englund's character has to fight a copy of himself. The movie goes hard into exploitation territory. There are some genuinely shocking scenes and lots of nudity. It's classic Roger Corman, basically. And then Cameron went and made Aliens a few years later, which was such a massive success that it completely overshadowed his earlier work. Galaxy of Terror was already pretty obscure, but once Aliens came out, forget it. Nobody was going back to watch the cheap knockoff when they could watch the masterpiece.